Hello, everyone, and welcome to 10 Seconds, the XC Off-Road Cast. I'm Rodney Tomlin, and today I want to say a special thanks to our friends at Phoenix Racing for help present to you this great and wonderful new show that we've come up with here in the 2020 season. Also want to say thanks to Teely Energy Racing, as well as Decker Training Facility, and also a special thanks to our good friends at XC Parts Solutions that you can find there at the GNCCs to pick up parts and accessories and apparel and different things when you're at the racetrack. And also we want to say thanks to DP Brakes. What's stopping you? And also don't forget you can get your DP Brakes at any Parts Unlimited dealer. Also want to send a shout out to our good friends at Spider Graphics for providing us with the new 10 Seconds XC Off-Road Cast logo. If you haven't seen that, it's, you look up there on the corner, you'll see it with no problem. We've also got some stickers we'll be handing out whenever we head back to racing action in the coming fall. And the way things are looking, it's looking pretty nice. As far as news and notes to point out, congratulations to Caleb Russell. I think he picked up race win number 67 at the high voltage GNCC there just a little over a week or so ago. And also coming up, our next GNCC race will be an EMTB GNCC only. That'll be coming up here in a week or so, a couple weeks actually, when we head into the Amateur National Motocross Championship at Loretta Lynn's Dude Ranch. We will resume GNCC racing in September. You can go to gnccracing.com to find out more about the upcoming special, the schedule, any special announcements, and any changes that may be coming with the current situation with the coronavirus and the epidemic, the pandemic, and everything that's going on right now. Pay close attention to gnccracing.com. You're watching right now 10 Seconds, the XC Off-Road Cast on 10seconds.cool. I'm Rodney Tomlin. My guest today is going to be the two-wheel Johnny G, the New England Rippa. We'll be talking with the J-Day boy coming up here in just a few moments, who's making a huge and monumental splash in the GNCC racing world when we return after these messages.
XC Parts Solutions is now available trackside at all GNCCs. Open Friday, noon till 6, Saturday, 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. XC Parts Solutions is a Moose Racing and Parts Unlimited dealer with a great inventory of Moose Racing products along with needed parts for bikes and quads. If you need raincoats, they got them. Umbrellas, they got them. Elephant ears for those mud races, they got them. Dry erase boards and markers, they have those too. Come by for a great deal on a great selection of Moose goggles and tear-offs used by a number of GNCC racers, located on Vendor Row next to the Moose Racing Transporter. XC Parts Solutions can take orders at the track and it can be shipped right to your house. Late need orders for in-stock products received before noon on Wednesdays can be picked up at the track. Email xcpartsolutions@gmail.com, on Instagram @xcparts, or give them a call at 931-854-1100 or 931-261-2004. And don't forget, all racers will receive rider support pricing from XC Parts Solutions.
Did you know you can save up to 25% and receive free shipping on great AMSOIL products with their preferred customer program? AMSOIL also has special pricing arrangements and free shipping for commercial accounts such as trucking companies, loggers, landscapers, and businesses like yours. Or if you have a business and would like to begin selling AMSOIL products, you could qualify to participate in the AMSOIL retail account program. You could become an independent AMSOIL dealer and build and grow your own profitable businesses. For more information, call John Coffey, your full-service AMSOIL dealer, at 877-694-4763 and leave him a message. John Coffey and AMSOIL, your first call for synthetics.
Hi, I'm Walker Fowler, and this is a DP brake rotor. And these are DP brake pads. Larry Mills and DP Brakes have been a part of my program for over a decade. Recently, we completed the Heartland Challenge, a 10-hour ATV endurance race that is not only physically demanding, but demanding on my machine and my parts. And that is why we choose DP brake pads. At the end of the race, we had 0 brake failures, and they looked brand new. If you aren't using DP brakes, what's stopping you? Literally.
And welcome back to 10 Seconds, the XC Off-Road Cast. I'm Rodney Tomlin, and of course, my guest today, Johnny Girroir. Buddy, I really totally apologize. I've gone on this. I did this with Dante and Mateo Oliveira. I butchered their names, and Mama came up and told me, said, listen, this is how you say that. How do you say your last name so we clear this up and I don't butcher it so much in the future?
It's Girroir.
Girroir. So it's that simple. I get it right a percentage of the times. I'm not going to say that every time, but I know you're also known as Johnny G, affectionately, up in the New England area as well, huh?
Yeah, for sure. JG or Johnny G or JG69 Rippa, any of those.
Yeah, and at JG69 Rippa is your Instagram and your Twitter. If folks want to follow you on there as well, right?
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter anymore. I don't go on that, but Instagram for sure.
Oh, that's for the old people like me started using Twitter, so you had to get out of that, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
We ruined Facebook for the young generation. We ruined Twitter for you. Guess what? Instagram is next. I don't know about this whole TikTok thing though, but we kind of played around with Snapchat some too. But anyway, buddy, it's nice to make your acquaintance. You know, you've been a part of the GNCC racing family. Since 2017, 2018, I think you started coming around.
Yeah. I actually raced I raced my first ever GNCC. I raced Unadilla. I think it was around 2008 or something like that. I raced 7 to 11 and did good there. I actually won the 7 to 11 by like 5 minutes on the 85. That was cool. And then I tried again in 2013. I raced XC1 and rode with Charlie Mullins and Caleb Russell for the first, I guess, hour and a half. And then, just not training like those guys, kind of fell off the pace. But still ended up, I think, top 5 in XC1 and 6th overall. So that was super cool. And then, I came back and raced a couple in 17. And again, had a couple good rides. I think ran out of gas on the KTM 300. And still got a couple top 10 overalls. And then Rod Marshall picked me up in 2018 and raced almost the whole season and tore my MCL, so I missed the last 2 rounds. And then past year, I got picked up by Trail Jesters and raced the first 3 rounds, and then I got sick and ended up in the hospital for a while, 30, 35 days, and then had to take the rest of this off, unfortunately, and now we're back at it this year.
Yeah, and that's something, the hospital visit, and, the first 3 rounds that you had, I think you had, 3 podium finishes the first 3 rounds whenever you ended up getting sick. And I've heard Johnny Gallagher, or Johnny G, the 4-wheel Johnny G on the GNCC side of things, he's made mention of this crazy thing that you had going on with the illness, which was, a pretty serious issue. And then when it was all said and done, miraculously, either you were healed or they were wrong, or something happened, that turned things back around for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. I just want to kind of touch on a couple of things there. We got a lot to talk about with you, buddy. You come out of New England, and with you is a wave of riders out of the New England area that is just taking the GNCC racing world by storm. It's great how well a lot of the riders are starting to mesh in and become a part of the GNCC Racing Nation. You guys are becoming regulars, but you still hold true to your roots with the New England clan that you guys travel with and race with for so many years. But man, that's just one thing that I want to talk about. You yourself, obviously, you've been racing for a while. You come to GNCC in 2008, so you were racing the minis, and that's something that you were doing up in New England. Obviously, there's some fast guys up there. You guys are very fast, and everybody that comes out of there and races at GNCC, they make some sort of mark. If they aren't winning, they're close to winning, or they're at the front of the pack. They're big forces in the factor. And it don't matter if it's in a trail rider class in the morning youth class, all the way up through the XC1 and XC2 ranks. I mean, you guys are there's a lot of you coming in, and there's a lot of talent. What happened, man? I mean, how did you guys get so fast up there? I mean, that's the thing with GNCC. I mean, we got a lot of fast kids, and a lot of that talent grows up through the youth GNCC racing ranks. But then you got you coming in a few years ago, Josh Toth, Ben Kelly, and that's kind of like some of the elite riders that we're looking at. But then you got a lot of these other little kids like Ryan Amancio, just one kid in particular that's just blazing fast in the youth ranks. And, you got his dad, Surly, who's a pretty fast senior or vet class rider, And, I mean, they're everywhere. You guys, I mean, is everybody that fast up there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely New England definitely has some rippers up here. Me and Josh and Ben all grew up ripping, Nutris first and getting that 2-hour format down and being able to last the distance. And Nutris gnarly, it's rocky, rooty. The tracks will beat you down. So I mean, that's where I think our grip comes from. And the J days growing up, I mean, it's like motocross through the woods, and you got, Luke Reslin, Robbie Marshall, Jimmy Dakotas, all them kids coming and battling, ton of moto kids and stuff like that. So, just the mix of racing. And we have a lot of motocross up here too, NESC, NEMEX, NEMA. So just so many different organizations to race, and I've raced them all growing up, and just a good mix of everything makes you a well-rounded rider.
Right. Yeah, obviously. So, I mean, the J-Day stuff, the motocross, that stuff obviously is enhancing your sprint speeds and things like that. And you mentioned a 2-hour format. That obviously is the pinnacle mark for a lot of series, but GNCC is a 3-hour race. And I think that's probably, as much as anything, the biggest difference in the whole, when you put it all out, I think that's probably the biggest and most critical difference in the off-road racing world, is that 3rd hour that GNCC offers as far as the battle and the race is concerned. And that's where everything seems to happen.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And, I agree. It's definitely harder, and I think it's a lot of mental when it comes to that 3rd hour. And I think everyone's tired and everyone's had enough, but it's who can stay strong and not let them. Your biggest competitor out there is yourself. I mean, you can tell yourself you can do it or you can't, and that's what it comes down to.
And obviously, I mean, the sprint speeds work out well. I mean, when you come into GNCC, you were a threat. You talked about racing against and with Caleb Russell and Charlie Mullins, and hanging with them for the first hour and a half or 2 hours of the first GNC major GN, as a big bike rider that you rode GNCC. I mean, coming into that, what kind of training were you doing? Were you training at the level that you're training at now? Maybe the same concept or idea, but stepping it up a little bit. I mean, what was the mindset of the racers as you grew up through the Netra series up there?
No, I definitely didn't train as hard as I do now. And growing up, I was always very strong-headed and mentally strong, and knowing that my speed was good, and I was definitely in shape. I cut a lot of trees and worked hard and dragged brush, and I did that all as a kid. So you know, I was had grit and determination, and I was strong, and kind of used that. I rode and stuff like that, but I never pedaled, or I was in the gym sometimes, but it wasn't like we do now and stuff. And now it's more just being so strong-headed, and even coming into Unadilla and stuff. I didn't know who Caleb Russell or Charlie Mullins or Josh Strang or Stu Baylor or any of those guys were. I had not a clue, never met them in my life, and I said, why not? I can go out there and
so you
run
guys,
with these boys.
so you guys up in New England, I mean, you're in your own little world up there, and obviously you've got some of the fastest riders in the world competing up there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because whenever you guys come to the GNCC, you're a threat and a force to reckon with. There's no doubt. But so you paid never mind to what was going on a national level. The GNCC was just another series that the hillbillies raced down in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Kentucky, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I was young and reckless, I should say. I just kind of raced up here and hung out with my friends, and I was going through some tough times in life, losing my dad and my best friend, and I was only 16, 17 years old when I came in and ran an XC1 with them. And no, I mean, I knew about it and stuff, and I knew people tried it, and my cousins raced it, and I have family members and friends that raced it. But I don't know, it was just we're just riding our own series up here, I guess. We're just having fun with it, and not even thinking about taking it to the next level.
So it was, I mean, when did that all come about? I mean, obviously come dabble, play a little bit, you have a lot of fun, you're somewhat successful at it and everything, but what prompted the move to make it a more, I guess, permanent thing for you?
I think just growing up with Josh and Ben, and knowing, hey, I'm just as fast as those guys, and seeing those guys, make it, and, put in the hard work, and be successful. And I knew racing J-Days wasn't going to, be a career for me. I would always have to, go to work and stuff, and go listen to a boss or something like that. And all that stuff was just getting old. And I said, you know what, I can do this. It's going to take me a year or two and some hard work, and, living on the road and traveling and trying new things. And, I was nervous going into it, but I had some tough years, but it's all worth it, and it all came together. And, basically just seeing how successful Josh and Ben were at it, kind of just opened my eyes, and was like, hey, you got this too.
It's a big risk and a big gamble. I mean, you put a lot on the line. I mean, emotionally, physically, financially, career-wise, because, whatever it was that you were doing, whatever your passions were as a career or job, did you have a normal job before you decided to make this plunge into strictly racing? Were you doing other things?
Yeah, for sure. I was cutting like residential trees.
Okay, so you were like a tree trimmer or whatever they call those guys up there, huh? So that's why you were moving, and that's why you were hard work. I get it, and that's cool. So so you come in with a good work ethic, and to be successful, seeing what Ben and those guys did, you had a taste of it yourself, and you knew that what the level was and what you were going to have to work and achieve. So I'm sure it was a big decision to say, man, I'm going to have to dedicate a lot of my life, not just a few hours a week or a few hours a day, but 365 days, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I mean, that's 60 minutes an hour, 60 seconds a minute, it's basically, that's what it boils down to be able to perform at that level, I think. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah, for sure. It's all about, you gotta get good sleep, you gotta be recovered, you gotta train hard, you gotta hydrate, you gotta eat right. It's the whole picture.
That's awesome, man. And I'm glad that you chose to take that risk and that gamble, because I think you've got a bright future in what we've got going on right there. And if nothing else, it's going to deepen the field with the competition. Don't get me wrong. I'm proud of Caleb Russell. I think that Caleb is an amazing person. Same thing with Walker Fowler on the ATV side of things. But, man, I like to see somebody else win every once in a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and that's nothing personally against Caleb. I just want to see if Caleb's going to win these championships. Like what we're seeing this year, I want to see those challenges. I mean, Caleb has been challenged in years past, but with Thad and a couple riders here and there. But I don't think that Caleb's seen the challenges in years past as what he's seen this year. And Thad's out. And a lot of it is coming from, Ben and Josh. And then you got Josh Strang, who's revitalized. Ricky Russell was on fire and things like that. So the field of competition is Caleb Russell makes his way out. There's a whole platform available there as far as the championship, and every one of you guys really seem hungry and want to be next in line for that.
Yeah, for sure.
So is that something that you got in your mind as far as the future goes?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to, be an XC1 and competing for the championship. As of right now, I think I'm going to ride 250s again next year. And, but yeah, of course. I mean, I've always rode a big bike my whole life. I think personally I can go faster on a big bike. Fits my riding style better. But, I'm just doing my time in the 250 class right now. And hopefully battling for this championship right down to the wire with Craig and Mikey. So.
Yeah, and that brings us right into my next topics of conversation. What's going on here this season right now? You set second in points. If I'm not mistaken, you're 9 points behind Craig DeLong as far as that. I'm not sure how far you are ahead of Mike Witkowski. I think Mike's had a couple of struggles, so he may have fallen back a little bit. But that championship race between you and Craig is kind of tight when you look at those points.
Yeah, and I think Mikey's only 2 points down from me. So
is he? Okay, I totally glanced over that, and I apologize for that. But
3 points.
3 points.
3 points.
And even that, so there's a 12-point difference between the top three riders, and that has to weigh on your mind as you go to the line each and every week. I mean, it's got to be an inspiration as well as, I don't know, kind of a, I don't want to say a weight, but it is kind of a weight. But that weight is that inspiration that you need to keep driving you at the same time, I think, too.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like, there's a lot of pressure when you get that white plate. And we've been tossing it back and forth to each other, me, Mikey, and Craig. And, coming into it, and then you come in the next round and you lose the white plate. You got, all that motivation behind you to try to get it back. And, it's definitely been a fun year and good battles. Good battle.
It has been. And like you said, when you first came into GNCC, you raced the XC1 class. When did you make that? Was it 2018, 2017 that you made the switch to the 250 class and started racing there?
Yeah, I honestly wanted to race XC1, but the team that I rode for they wanted to put me in XC2, and I was getting help from KTM up in New England and Northeast KTM, and they didn't obviously they didn't want to help me to go race around the country because it doesn't help them, and I understand it's a business. So Rod wanted to give me a chance on the Suzuki, and he wanted me to race the 250s. So, and it was just a team decision, I guess. So
right.
That's where it started. And then I'm happy because I've never really rode a 250F. So it's definitely made me a better rider. And
how was your performance on the Suzuki? Did you like the Suzuki? Because Suzuki's is not a brand that you see in the off-road world much anymore.
I rode KTM my whole life, so I didn't mend with it too well. So I kind of fought it most of the year, and I ended up putting it on the podium twice, so that was cool, at the Snowshoe and then the Mason-Dixon. So
yeah, and either one of them could be considered a couple of tough races, especially Snowshoe, depending on the conditions, obviously. But very impressive stuff. Now, as far as New England terrain and things like that, what is your terrain like up there? You know, you hear it's mountainous, it's deep, it's rocky, it's loamy, it's dark soil, there's roots, you know, that, you know, you hear people talk about it, but I mean, from a firsthand experience, what are the trails like by comparison to a GNCC trail? And if there are any that are similar to what you grew up racing on a consistent basis, what would that be?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of similar trails. You know, there's a lot of similar trails in PA, and the rock's a little different, but they're still gnarly, rocky mountains, like they say, and nasty roots. And then there's Southwick, that's, you know, not even a mile away. That's a big sand pit, and super fun sand. There's a sand pit across the street, and all sand trails down through the woods. Just that we grew up riding, and there's, you know, down in Connecticut, there's what's it, Rocky Hill, that's a, you know, screen low motocross track, and there's Crow Hill, that's a motocross track. They put a lot of work in there. So yeah, there's just every variety you could possibly want.
You know, it seems like that, you know, a lot of emphasis is put on in the motorcycle racing world, obviously with the motocross, GNCC, and things like that. You know, middle America, or, you know, the lower eastern United States or California seems to be the hot spots as far as racers and competition is concerned. But man, it really seems like there is a big rider contingent in the New England area, whether they are competitive riders or not. You guys seem to have a lot of people that trail ride, that may not race, but there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm as far as motorcycling is concerned up there.
Yeah, for sure. There's tons of people that love to get out and ride, whether it's bikes or quads or side-by-sides, for sure.
And you mentioned Southwick, the Wick. You're a mile from that particular. You grew up a mile from there, or that's where you live now?
Yeah, I grew up a mile away from the MX338 track.
Wow. So that was pretty. That was. I mean, that had to be. I mean, obviously living that close, it maybe not have seemed like as big a deal to you. I've been up there. I love the place, man. I mean,
yeah,
it's very unique. It offers some great racing and obviously some challenging riding with the sands and things like that. So did you realize what you had there in your own backyard and what come to town every year?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, to throw some icing on the cake, my dad used to grade the track, and we used to go down there and get to ride it every week.
Awesome.
During the week.
So you turn some laps over there. That's awesome, man. So, man, you've got a pretty storied career. How did I ask you how old you were? I can't remember. I know I was going to.
No, I'm 24 years old. 24
years old. So in 24 years, you got a pretty storied career, it sounds like, already in the racing world. So that's awesome. And I am glad that you've made this switch over to GNCC racing to make this challenge, and I'm glad to see that you're challenging for the championship. I think it makes it gives a lot of excitement on a lot of different levels. Number one, it's a new face. Number two, it really, I'm sure, with coming on the heels of what Josh and Ben have been able to achieve, it really helps ignite and keep the fire burning for the off-road racing enthusiast up in the New England area. And, you know, I mean, there's just a lot of good things. And it also introduces our GNCC people to the fact that, hey, we may have some fast people out there, but, you know, there's other people that ride motorcycles too, and we want all the best competition in the world coming to the GNCC, and that seems to be what's taking place right now. I mean, we got people from different countries and continents coming and making their way in, and we've had this secret little roughed-in diamond up there in the Northeast that nobody ever really pegged as anything, and now all of a sudden you guys are shining brightly out here. It's really neat to see how this is all coming together. And I don't know, do you realize what you're a part of, what kind of a movement you're a part of, and what you could be maybe helping usher in as far as opportunities for riders up in your area?
I mean, yeah, I think, like you said, it definitely keeps a lot of people, keeps people's spark alive and hopes up, and knowing, you know, watching us do it and getting good help from Ross and you know, definitely gives people hope and gives people something to look forward to.
It does, and I think it might be inspiring for other folks. You know, I mean, there's I know the brunt of the GNCC riders come out of that West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York. There's a lot of riders out of New York now, especially with the what used to be Winoa. I don't know what they call it now, but the New York Off-Road Riders Association up there. There's a lot of talent coming out of there. There's a lot of talent coming out of Indiana. And you know, it's just like it's broadening. The talent fields are broadening, so it creates, I think, a lot of great competition. Okay, so we've talked about the fact that you know, the 3 podiums last year in, was it 2019 or 2018 that you got ill? I think it was
2019.
2019. So last year you raced those first 3 rounds. I think you got a win or 2, definitely on the podium the first 3 rounds. And then, like you said, you got sick. Let's talk a little bit about that. What was that all about? And what was this? I mean, can you share some specifics of that and what it's taken to get from that point back to where you're at right now?
Yeah, for sure. I could tell you the whole story. So I raced Steel Creek, got second, right behind Ben, and then went home, went to go to Walmart, get some food. Around noontime, started feeling crappy, getting sweats and stuff, fever, feeling like I was going to throw up, started throwing up. I said, oh boy, I got the flu or something. So I was like, I'm just going to lay down, and just kept getting hot and cold sweats and miserable. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sleep it off. I went to bed, woke up, so that was Monday afternoon, woke up Tuesday. I was in Indiana. Woke up Tuesday, and it was like 2:30 in the morning, and felt like someone was stabbing me with a knife in the stomach, and I couldn't breathe that well. So I woke up in a frantic, and my girlfriend rushed me to the hospital, and we ran some tests, blood work, MRIs. They're like, oh, we can't find anything wrong with you. And I was like, well, something's wrong. So
Yeah, or definitely.
They ended up doing a CAT scan. And they're like, oh my God, you got a tumor in your right lung, and you know, we're gonna have to send you upstairs, blah blah blah, and take a biopsy of it. So then they did that, and you know, for 2 weeks we thought it was lymphoma cancer. They told me it was lymphoma, and it ended up actually just being a big lung infection. It's 7 centimeters in my right lung. And came out and wrapped around my esophagus, and it actually swelled up so bad that it was touching all my organs and heart. And so every time my heart beat, it felt like someone was stabbing me with a knife. So that's where all the pain come from. So I had like epidurals and stuff, and fentanyl drippers and stuff, and I was in some serious pain. It started, I was born with 4 lobes in my right lung. You're only supposed to be born with 3. It was just an extra, and the lobe actually closed off and stopped working, and that's where the infection started in there, and that's where it came out and grew. So all that came through, and then I was in Indiana for a week or 2, and then I told them I wanted to go to Boston because they told me I had cancer, and in Boston's you know, top 3 in the country for cancer hospitals. So went over there, and then they still didn't know, and Indiana took the biopsy and then told us they couldn't read it. They had to send it out. Waited 2 weeks for the biopsy, and then basically they said they lost it, and just all sorts of messes. So that was rough. So then Boston had to do some more tests and find out for themselves. So it was definitely a waiting game, and definitely a lot of information thrown at me that was incorrect. And
yeah, and it was some pretty heavy stuff coming at a 22, 23-year-old guy too. I mean, to be told, you know, I mean, cancer for anybody, no matter what age you are, is something that is, I'm sure, when the doctor tells you that you could have or you do have, that's pretty devastating, man. I mean, you know, just the likelihood of it's got to be devastating, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when they told me that, my heart sank.
I can only imagine, man.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that. That had to be. But I mean, it also, I'm sure it's something that helped me maybe put your life into a little better perspective too, because you were looking at something that seemed horrible, that could be obviously life changing, maybe even life threatening or ending as far as that goes. You know, I mean, you never can tell. I mean, that's a lot to put on a young man's plate, especially whenever you feel that you're at the peak of your life. You know, you're doing better, you're doing well, you're doing as good or better than you ever done and performed in your life, and then all of a sudden, you know, wham, you're taken out at the knees, and then you get the double whammy of, hey, this may be cancer. But man, what a blessing. I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of prayers and things like that went on, and you had probably a lot of talks with Jesus and stuff about what was going on, and I'm sure you were very thankful after everything was all cleared up and what was going on there, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think just the prayers and high hopes and all that definitely, you know, talking to God and stuff, and definitely got me through it.
You know, and I'm glad to hear you say that, man. That's good. I'm not preaching, I'm not beating the Bible or anything like that over anybody's head. I am a believer. My dad was a preacher. I'm a preacher's boy. I am the typical preacher's kid. At 51 years old, at 51 years old, I'm still that ordinary preacher's kid, I think. But I know, man. I mean, honestly, it kind of sounds. I mentioned the word miraculous there at one point here earlier. It almost sounds miraculous in a sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Did it
Definitely
feel like?
America.
Yeah. So it felt like that to you too, then, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to think. So everything's good now. What about the extra lobe? Did they remove the lobe? Did they?
No, the infection just shrunk, and it's still in there, and they said it'd be fine. We had questions about, you know, what if it comes back, or why won't it start growing again if it grew the first time, and they said it'll be all right. So.
All right, man. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So, well, good. So, I mean, so now we're looking forward. Here we are. We made it into 2020. Like you said, it's been an amazing, there's a 12-point championship battle. I'm sorry, Mike Witkowski. That boy gets overlooked more than anybody I've ever seen in my life. As far as a GNCC notable, I think we just kind of consider him just somebody that we expect to be there, and he just gets kind of overlooked and not mentioned a whole lot. But man, I mean, obviously he's a fast guy. He's a championship contender. So you're in a great position. We're through 8 rounds. We're into the second, what I like to call the second half of the season, the push toward the championship now. And in the last 5 rounds, when we go back, obviously things are a little different. The schedule's kind of jacked up. There's, you know, I mean, it could change at any given time, as we've seen that happening so far this season. How are you going to approach these last 5 races? What's I guess where are you at? Are you in New England now?
Yes.
Okay. So you're in New England. You got a couple months before we get back to GNCC racing. What does this break hold for you, and how are you going to approach these last 5 rounds of racing?
I'm just going to work hard during the summer break, like I've been doing all year, and go sprint enduro racing. We just had a sprint enduro in West Virginia, and we got one in Georgia in a couple of weeks, and then another one in Virginia. So I'm just going to race those, keep training, keep sharp, and come into these, you know, last 5 rounds just really, really strong and wanting it.
Just basically what we've seen through this first part of the season, but maybe with a little more desire, realizing it's how close it is right now, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
What would what would winning the championship mean to you?
I'd mean the world just by getting sick last year and not even knowing how I was going to do lining up this year, you know, not being able to breathe right this winter, and not even knowing if I was going to be able to go racing this year, and you know, just tons of people doubting me, and just to prove everyone that I can do this, and I did do this, and I've been knocked down more than once, and get right back up and keep going, and it would mean a lot. You know, it'd mean a lot. And my dad passed away, and I ride for him, and he loved doing this, and it'd mean the world to me.
That's great, man. And you know, I knew you'd mentioned your dad. You must have had a really good relationship with Dad, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Took us racing and riding every weekend, and always got us the best stuff he could possibly get us, and it was great.
How long's he been gone?
10 years.
10 years, man. And it's just probably hurts just as much as today as it did that day, you know, 10 years ago, I'm sure. And to know and to be able to ride with him in your heart and on your mind like that, man, I think that's great. He'd be proud of you. I can tell you that. I didn't know the man, but I'm telling you right now, he'd be a proud dad. And there's a good reason why. You're a hardworking kid. I mean, to me, man, I mean, you're a picture perfect young man. I'm sure you're just like anybody else out there. We all have our ornery spells and things like that, but you seem to be dedicated. You seem to be focused. You seem to have a good work ethic. You seem to be respectful of everybody. But you know, and that leads me to the next question. You kind of broke up a little bit. My reception or something got a little choppy, but I understand you said, you know, it was almost as if one of the things that was inspiring you and was kind of neat about it was the fact that, you know, being able to be successful with people that maybe doubted you was kind of what I was getting out of that. Are there haters, or are there Johnny G, JG69 haters out there that say, "Nah, Johnny, you can't do that. What do you think you're doing, dude?" I mean, do you have that going on in your life?
Yeah, there's for sure some people that doubt me and, you know, want to drag my name down and talk about it for sure.
They're jealous.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just the way it is. There's a lot of people that hate me for whatever reason, and it may be or may not, but I always look at it. The bottom line is, for whatever reason, they're envious of me, and there's nothing that I can do about it. I'm just me, man, just like you. You go do your thing, I go do my thing. And I understand you're successful at what you do, and sometimes people resent that because they are jealous. They want to be in your position, you know, so they'll do anything they can to bring you down. My word of advice, don't listen to them, man. Just keep doing what you're doing.
For sure.
Keep racing for your dad, and with your dad and your heart out there like that, man. Dude, I'm glad that I got to know you a little bit better. I just talked to you in passing, and I apologize to that. I should have reached out to you and talked to you on a little more personal level. I'm pretty busy at the races and things like that, but just taking this opportunity to get to know you a little bit better, where you come from, what you're all about. I mean, I read a lot more into what you're saying than even what you've said today, man. And you're a great guy. You come from obviously a great family, and
Nice.
and I'm sure your mom is probably your biggest supporter and your biggest cheerleader, and your girlfriend and everybody else, man. I mean, it sounds like you've got a great support network behind you.
For sure.
That's awesome. Anything that you want to pass along to us, any parting shots or anything that you might want to let the folks out there in the world know that maybe we don't know?
No, not
Okay.
really. Just.
And that leads me to, not really, but that leads me to this next question, kind of the same one, but a little bit differently. What's the one thing about Johnny Girroir, right, that nobody knows about?
I don't know. I don't know.
So you don't have any skeletons in the closet? You aren't ornery? There aren't any good stories to tell that you went out and did something crazy that nobody knows that was you, that you did, like stole the opposing high school's goat or something like that?
Maybe I just used to be a wild child when I was younger.
Did you?
Yeah.
You don't seem like that, man. You seem like a pretty calm, collected dude, man. Got it out of your system, I get.
Get it out of my system. Yep.
All right, buddy. Anybody you want to say thanks to?
Yeah, for sure. The whole Trail Jesters KTM team, Ross, you know, if it wasn't for him, I don't think me and any of us, Ben, Josh, any of us would be shining so bright. I mean, he really is a huge key, and huge key to our success. And Steve and Denise Hatch, FMF CD, seat concepts, Dunlop tires, my mechanic Woody, my suspension guy Tom, George, building the motors, XC Gear, Troy Lee Design, Scott, just everybody, Loud Fuel, P3, everybody that helps.
Every little bit counts, don't it, man? I mean, every little bit of support that you get helps. And I do at this time. I also am gonna. I've been really bad the last few years. I haven't done my job as well as I should have. I haven't got acquainted with you on a more personable level. I haven't got acquainted with the guys from Trail Jesters either. I do want to extend this personal bit of gratitude to everybody behind and who supports the Trail Jesters team for what they brought to off-road racing, bringing the riders down to the GNCC, supporting the riders, and not only the riders, but different concepts of things that go on in the GNCC world, behind the scenes type stuff that they know that what I'm talking about. I really appreciate that. So from a personal and a professional standpoint, I apologize profusely, but I also give a heartfelt gratitude, thanks for what you do for GNCC racing and off-road racing in general. And to you too, my friend, because you bring a spark to our series. You put these guys on their toes. You let us realize that, and these other riders realize that we cannot fall asleep at the wheel because somebody's waiting to come and steal the glory at any given time. And there are some fast guys out there that deserve it as much as anybody else out there. So thank you. And again, man, just thanks for being a part of 10 Seconds today.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Johnny Girroir. I'm Rodney Tomlin. This is 10 Seconds, the XC Off-Road Cast.